Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So welcome to the first video of 2018. I hope you guys are having a good year so far. And yeah, it's going to be a really good year. I have lots of good stuff planned. And yeah, so today I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind recently in terms of art. And it's actually pretty relevant to this piece that I'm working on here. First of all, I do want to say that I did release a real-time video of this painting. So if you want to check that out, I will have a link to it, but I realized that not everyone is super into real-time videos, so I wanted to release a speed paint of it as well. I am using watercolors on watercolor paper. I am using Schminky watercolors. They're a new one that I'm trying out, and I really hope I pronounced the name right. Anyway, so now on to what I wanted to talk about today. So I wanted to talk about using art as a coping mechanism. Ever since I basically realized what a coping mechanism was, I've used art as a way to cope with things. So what I mean by that is basically I use art as a form of escaping the things that are bothering me and processing and working through them. When I do art, especially a piece like this that has meaning behind it, I kind of pour all of my emotions and all of the icky things that I'm feeling into art. And it's a way for me to cope with things that's a productive way of coping. You guys know I've talked about it in the past that I have a history of depression and self-harm. And I find that using art and focusing on art is a really good way to focus on something other than wanting to self-harm or spinning into depressive or anxiety thoughts. Art basically is just a way for me to focus on something other than how I'm feeling. Recently, I've been really sick, and when you're chronically ill, sometimes it's very easy to fall into a dark place where you feel like, oh, I'm sick, I'm never going to be not sick, and this is my life now. And that's kind of been where I have been mentally. It's not a great place to be, because even though I am chronically ill, that's not all that I am, and that's not that I ever will be. And I realize that on like a deep level, but just sometimes it's really hard to remind myself of that. So when I get into these episodes, it's really hard for me to draw because I don't have the motivation to do anything really. But sometimes what I need to do most is just draw, because for one, it helps me focus on something other than how I'm feeling, like I mentioned before. And two, it's a productive thing. Often when I get into these episodes, I'm not productive at all. I kind of spend my days not doing anything, especially when I'm sick and I don't have the energy to do anything on top of all that. But getting up and drawing something, even if it's not a full illustration like this, if it's just getting up and doodling in my sketchbook, at least I'm doing something. And I find that the act of doing something, anything, is really good for my mental state, and it kind of helps me pull out of that worthless feeling that I get sometimes when I'm sick, because I feel like I don't have the energy to do anything, so I don't do anything, so I feel like I'm not a contributing member of society. So even the act of just doodling something kind of helps me realize that, oh, okay, maybe I'm not a huge waste of space because I can do something. And that's really helpful when I go through episodes like this, because self-love is something that I also really struggle with. And I find it easier to like myself if I'm doing something. So yeah, art is one of my favorite things to do in general. So when I go through periods of not being able to do art for a long time, I end up feeling worse. So I really try to push myself to do art because it does help me so much with my mental state. And yeah, so I just kind of wanted to talk about my relationship with art as a coping mechanism. I know probably a few of you guys can relate, even if it's not with the whole you know, chronically ill and depression type thing. I know art can be a really good coping mechanism for a lot of people. And I think that's awesome. I think it's really good to have something to be able to do and focus on and put your energy toward that's productive and not self-deprecating or self-harming in any way. Even if it's not like traditional art, maybe it's like music. I know 21 Pilots, you guys will know, is my favorite band, but I was listening to one of an interview with the main singer, Tyler Joseph, and he mentioned when he was talking about one of his songs that he was trying to portray the idea of putting your energy toward something that's not how you're feeling. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. He explained it a lot better than me. I'm not good with words. That's why I draw, guys. But he put it really eloquently in that it's so good to have something, just something that you can pour all of your energy into that is productive, that's creating something out of nothing. So you, instead of destroying something or destroying yourself, you are creating something. And when you're in that kind of horrible mental state or horrible mental place, it is so healing and so great to be able to create something out of all that pain and negativity that you're feeling, instead of harming yourself or harming someone else or harming like anything. You take that pain and you turn it into something else. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love art so much, is because I can take all the pain and all the negativity that I feel and create something. Like this painting, for example. I mentioned I've been feeling very, very sick and very constrained by my illness, which is kind of what I wanted to portray in this piece, is the feeling of being held back and being tied up by something. And I took that feeling and I was able to just kind of sit down at my desk. I finally had the energy to be able to sit down at my desk, which felt really good. But I was able to sit down at my desk and just go into this mental state where I just busted this out in one sitting. Like, I had a loose idea of what I wanted and I just kind of like vomited onto the paper with my paints. And it was so therapeutic, and it really helped me just pull out of that mental place and kind of get out of my own head for just a little while and focus on something other than how I was feeling. I was able to focus on the anatomy. I was able to focus on how I wanted her expression to look. I was able to focus on getting the colors right and getting the shapes right. And just being able to focus on something other than how bad I felt did wonders for me. And I feel much better. In addition to feeling healthier, because I finally got medicine, I feel mentally better. And I really owe a lot of that to art, not all of it, because I do feel mentally better now that I'm not so sick. But I was able to just kind of heal a little bit faster because I have art and because I have this outlet that I can pour all my negativity into. So instead of it festering inside of me, I just threw it onto the paper, and now it exists on the paper, so it doesn't have to exist inside of me anymore, if that makes sense. I really hope it does. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me today and listening to me ramble on about things. I hope it was a little bit insightful for you, and I hope you got something out of it. If anything, it was nice to kind of talk about it and get it off my chest. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for always being here and always being so supportive. Like I said, this is also a real-time video, so if you want to check that out, it is up on my channel. And yeah, here's to a great 2018. Let's make it better than 2017. I'm like really determined to make this a really good year, so I hope you guys are too. And yeah, I hope you guys have an excellent rest of the day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.